Still dealing with the 5 institutions, man. 5 institutions of the Ekehore conflict management system. It says here, the study found out that each Ekehore clan had well laid out indigenous systems of handling its affairs. The Nkama, which was the supreme and head council of elders of the clan. Okay, so the Nkama, right? They're the leaders, the elders of the whole clan. All right, clans was like a sub tribe among the Ekehore, like a family or something. All right, so they was the spiritual leaders, man, so to speak. All right, it says, working very closely with the Nkama was the Avaragoli, who acted as the clan forecasters or seers. Working under the Nkama and Avaragoli were the Iratungo, Sungasungu, and Ihama. So that's basically the way it's all laid out. You know, you got the Nkama, Avaragoli, Iratungo, Sungasungu, and Ihama. Each institution had its own role, its own purpose. All right? We're going to get into that. We're going to find out what that is. The members of Nkama through the Avaragoli were regarded more like traditional medicine men. Their major role in the community could be extrapolated as that of protecting their respective clans against evil spirits and other supernatural powers emanating from their perceived adversaries. Nkama inherited their roles from ancestors, and no ordinary persons could become a member of Nkama by choice. So this thing was passed down from generation to generation. It wasn't like you wake up one day and you decide, oh, well, you know what I want to be in life? I want to be this. I want to be an Nkama. Nah, man, you inherited this thing. It was passed down to you, right? Passed down to you, man. So let's see what else the Nkama is about. Let's read more about this Nkama. This is Domesticating Leviathan, page 19. Behind the Iratungo, but rarely playing an active role in the meetings, is the Nkama, the conclave of ritual elders, right? They usually meet in secret. Meet in secret and are responsible for the ritual well-being of the people. All right, setting the dates of the initiation ceremonies and ruling on other issues which affect the community as a whole. So they meet in secret, man. Right? Again, man, that's the scriptures. Right, Genesis 49:6. O my soul, come not thou into their secret. Because they had, like, again, man, this is the thing among Simeon and Levi, being secretive, being discreet, doing things, under the veil of darkness. Come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly. All right? So they hold secret assemblies, secret meetings, all right? Councils, man. This is why it says they usually meet in secret and are responsible for the ritual well-being of the people, setting the dates of the initiation ceremonies and ruling on other issues which affect the community as a whole. So they had initiation ceremonies, man. This sounds starting to sound like some secret society type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Skull and bones type stuff, man. Initiation ceremonies. What were those initiation ceremonies for? This is Agricultural History of the Ekehore, Page 43, it says the Abakuria increased their stocks mainly by raiding their neighbors. Further, more raiding was a requirement for the Kuria youth to demonstrate courage after initiation. See that, man? So the initiation ceremonies were for the young men, man. Once they initiated, they got to display their bravery, show their courage. Right? This is Kuria cattle raiders. Page 1. It says in the pre-colonial era, Kuria young men raided cattle to win prestige and display their masculinity. You see this, man? So this was after initiation. The initiation ceremonies they had, which was ran by the Nkama, the elders, man. They had them initiated and encouraged the cattle raiding. Right? They encouraged it, man. Continuing on, it says many regard them as the real government of the Kuria, and this is acknowledged by the members of administration who find it difficult to push through reforms of any nature if they are opposed by the people and Nkama. As the Tarame District Commissioner emphasized, to me, the only district commissioners who have been successful in Kuria have been those who have been prepared to work with Nkama rather than against them. So you can't go against the grain of something that's been established before colonial days, man. You got to work with these people. They know what they're doing. Nkama might well, in circumstances where their side is seen to be suffering unduly, encourage raiding. You see this, man? That's why it's a mechanism that is a catalyst for conflict, because if they're suffering unduly, they're going to encourage raiding and offer magical protection to the raiders. That would be the young men. Okay? Encourage cattle raiding. This is informal local governance institutions. Page 13, it says findings in the history of traditional governance institutions in the Kuria ethnic group revealed that the Council of Elders, or Nkama, is a strong governance institution which has existed for many years as the history of Kuria ethnic group itself. See, this thing been around, man. It's nothing new. It says Nkama is a central authority or a central pillar in the management of community traditional affairs, including conflict management between and within Kuria clans. Right? It says findings from this study have revealed that members of Nkama are not selected by community members. Rather, members acquire those positions hereditary or through critical nominations done by the existing members of the Nkama. So you see this thing is passed down. Right? The position is hereditary. It's inherited. Like what we read here. Right? So a journey into the indigenous conflict management mechanisms. All right, page 7. It says Nkama inherited their roles from ancestors, and no ordinary persons could become a member of Nkama by choice. Inherited, man. Before the colonists. All right, it says findings in this study have also revealed that functions of Nkama resemble the contemporary intelligence departments in the modern government, man. So their function, their 5 levels of the institutions in by which they govern their communities, right? it resembles the contemporary intelligence departments, man. So they influenced modern day government. You know, they like the CIA, the secret intelligence agencies of different governments, man. All that was inspired, came from the Ekehore, man. Simeon. This is how you know what Genesis 49:6 is talking about. When it talk about come not down to their secret. Right? The founding of secret institutions, man. So they influence modern intelligence departments of government, man. All right, this is amazing stuff here. You know. All right, so where we at now? Let's continuing on. Let's go to page 12 here. So we learn a little bit of the in comma, right? Let's see here. Also the in comma, right? Benefited from the conflict either directly or indirectly. They invoke the spirits of the warriors through the use of traditional charms, therefore leading to conflict. This provocation was supposed to give an urge in the warriors to go raiding, and since they had to seek the protection of the Council of Elders, that's the in comma, they in reciprocation gave a promise of reward in form of cattle after successful raids. All right. So this is how they encouraged the young men to raid, promising them reward and gifts after the raid, man. So this is the Avaragoli. Like I said earlier, they played a part of a seer, prophet, right? It says these were community seers whose key role was to look into the future and advise the council of elders on the way forward, which in one way or the other led to conflict. The Avaragoli played an astrological role in the community, not only in conflict but also in all aspects of life. They were a cause of conflict in that when they told the warriors that a raid would be successful or that they stood high chances of winning, the warriors were motivated to go to war, therefore leading to conflict. So you see how they got a little superstitious thing going on, acting like they seeing a vision, right? And they go off a whim and tell the warriors, the young men of the community, yep, when y'all go to war, y'all gonna be successful. Chances are, it may not be true. They come back, somebody could have died, you know, may not have been a successful raid, you know. It might be a bad forecast. So that will lead to conflict. You know what I'm saying? So the spiritual element really is corrupted. It ain't perfect. It sounds like it involves a lot of divination and witchcraft, in my opinion. Which probably is. Okay? Which probably is, man. So let's go back to informal local governance. Go up to page 11. This is a little bit on the Iritungo. Iritungo, man. It says the study finding indicated that the Council of Elders, Iritungo, was made up of representatives from sub-clans appointed by community members within a clan charged with responsibilities of managing local community affairs at the grassroots level. All right. These institutions, Iritungo, were very famous and important as they have existed in the Korea community since pre-colonial time. Right? Iratungo, man, they're like the judges. So you got Nkama, spiritual leaders, right? Avaragoli, seers and prophets, medicine men and all of that. Iratungo plays the part of the judge. Sungasungu's the groundwork. They're the policing arm. And then you got Ihama, which is the investigators. Okay? Go out and do investigations. And I'm going to show you that. Breaking down each institution. I'm saying? So, again, these institutions, Iratungo, were very famous and important as they have existed in the Korea communities since pre-colonial time. Alright? Says here, Iratungo, in collaboration with the superior body, Nkama convenes peace meetings between rival clans or communities with the aim of preparing peace agreements. Examples of those agreements supervised by Iratungo include the agreement between Waanchari and Wakira in the 1980s, which was not successful. Iratungo was also responsible for conducting investigations on various matters reported to them by community members. Investigations were performed in collaboration with the Sungasungu, the policing arm. So they all work in tandem really together. It's just each one has its own role, specific role. It says, investigations were performed in collaboration with Sungasungu, the policing arm, to arrest the criminals, the accused, or the suspects. Investigations conducted by Iratungo were aimed at ensuring that there is fair justice or ruling made on certain cases where objective as possible. During the investigations, Sungasungu, with directives from Iratungo, sometimes they did whippings, beating, and in most cases, the accused persons were wounded. Okay? So you see the Sungasungu taking orders from Iratungo, which is the judges. Right? And they, according to what they tell them, they go do the whippings. They administer, they're the policing arm. Right? That works with the Iratungo. So they get the commands from Iratungo to dispense judgment in any particular way that they see fit, which is judged and ruled by the Iratungo. All right, and they work with Nkama as well. All right. So you see, they all working together, man. They all working together. So this is page 9 on the indigenous. It says, in the Abakuria, Iratungo means community, thus a way of the community managing its affairs. The Iratungo also dispensed justice and presided over disputes. For this reason, they worked as community judges. You see this? So these are the Iratungo is basically the judges. You see what I'm saying? It says, in cases of dispute, they could rule for one to be punished through killing, payment of a fine, simple caning, or being excommunicated from the village. It says, to enforce these decisions, or the rule of community law, they worked in tandem with Nkama and Sungasungu, right? That's why we just read here, the Sungasungu would take commands from Iratungo, right? Investigations were performed in collaboration with Sungasungu to arrest the criminals, the accused, or the suspects, right? It says here, during the investigations, sungu with directives from Iratungo. Sometimes they did whippings, beating, that's the caning, and in most cases the accused persons were wounded. So you see the severe way of administering justice and judgment according to the scriptures. Genesis 49:7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. You see that, man? Doing exactly as what we reading. Doing caning. You getting caned, man. Getting whipped at a post. And like I brought out earlier, if you was accused of rape, you get beat severely, man. Beat severely for rape. Okay? So they wasn't playing. Alright, so it says here, the Iratungo also dispensed justice and presided over disputes. For this reason, they worked as community judges. In cases of dispute, they could rule for one to be punished through killing, payment of a fine, simple caning, or being excommunicated from the village. To enforce these decisions or the rule of community law, they worked in tandem with Nkama and Sungu. The Iratungo were tasked with the responsibility of conducting investigations on cases. All right? So you see they all work together, man. It's just layers of governance that is taking place, where each of the 5 levels have their own role to play. All right? They are conducting their own way of judgment and justice, man. Now let's go down here to Sungu and get a little bit more understanding on the Sungu, right? Traditionally, the Sungu represented the policing arm of the indigenous conflict management system that were used by members of the society to push culprits found guilty of the offenses they were accused of. By what? By Iratungo within their respective clans. Right? The Iratungo were the judges. And the Sungu, right? They were the ones, they were the foot soldiers. They was the ones on the ground. They were the militia. Right? That's what they do, man. That's their job. So it says here, paradoxically, perhaps a vindication of Nyarere's belief in village socialism. Now this is what the people did during the time when, right, I had brought this out, in another video. The people formed their own militia because they felt as though the president, Nyerere at the time, I think around the 80s and 90s, he wasn't doing anything to stop the raiding and the violence that was going on in Kenya and Tanzania. So this is what happened. Paradoxically, perhaps a vindication of Nyarere's belief in village socialism and self-reliance, while the conditions in which they arose speak only to the total failure of his policies. From 1982 onwards in central Tanzania, villagers began to organize their own form of community police force known as Sungu. See this? Page 5 of Domesticating Leviathan. The name Sungu is usually taken as derived from the Kiswahili word for large biting black safari ants. Okay? Although this name became and still is used to refer to all such groups in Tanzania among the Sukuma, Nyamwezi, the more usual designation is Masalama, which may be broadly translated as people of peace. So that was, Basalama was the designated side of the Sungu, which were Sukuma, which is the tribe of Reuben. Now, remember what I brought out? When they want to pull off a false flag, they could dress up as the toga and raid Masai, or they could dress up as Sakuma and raid the toga. You know, either way. This is how they work in secret, man. This is their deceptive element. Like how, you know, they answered Shechem and Hamor deceitfully. They got that same nature. So if they knew who Sukuma was, because they had them as part of their Sungu Sungu. So they very well knew how they dressed, behaved, and acted. So therefore they could pretend to be Sukuma, right? And raid the toga. Then whatever retaliation the toga wanted to do, they go on to hit and attack Sukuma, not knowing that it was actually Abakuria. You see what I'm saying? So they knew who Sukuma was. They had him in their Sungu Sungu. Alright? So let's go now. Back to informal local governance. Page 12. Iratungo were also blamed for instigating conflicts due to the fact that they had the power to recruit Sungu Sungu, the traditional militias, who were under their control, and give them different instructions. Some of those instructions from Iratungo were blamed for instigating conflicts, especially during the time of making follow-ups. Right? See, the follow-ups were done by the Ihama, the fifth level of the institution. This is popularly known as Kufuata Niyayo, which translates as follow, tracing the footprints when livestock was stolen. Sometimes Sungu Sungu faced resistance when they entered into the boundaries of their rival clans in the process of making follow-ups to the stolen cattle. Such kind of resistance in most cases ended into fighting between clans. So you see that how their Sungu Sungu could be a catalyst for conflict as well. All right. All right, let me see here. Going here to page 10. Page 10 of the Indigenous. It says here, Ihama. The Ihama also acted like Sungu Sungu. However, their role differed in that they formed part of those charged with making follow-ups, popularly known as Fuata Niyayo, which translates as follow footprint, right? Just like what we read here, right? Which translates as follow tracing footprints. Okay, so like I said, Ihama are the investigators. They're like the guys who come, just like you watch one of those, you know, those TV show dramas that involve crime, like CSI and whatever, all of that. You know, they like the people who come on a crime scene and they gather up all the evidence at the crime scene. And you know what I'm saying? They get the fingerprints, you know, all of the fingerprints on the guns, blood samples, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? This is what Ihama does. Tell you, man, these people sophisticated, man. They had all of this laid out before any modern day government. They've been doing this for a long time. Right? So they follow up. It's popularly known as Fuata Niyayo, which translates as follow footprint when livestock was stolen. Together with Sungu Sungu, they form part of the policing arm of Iratungo, right? Because like I said, they all work in tandem. It's all layers, man. And hence, indigenous conflict management system. Apart from following the footprint, Kufuata Nayayo, on tip-offs that livestock had been stolen, they ambushed the cattle rustlers, fought them, and if successful, the livestock were returned to their owners. All right. So that's Nhama. That's Ihama right there. Okay. Now let's go back to page 7 of Indigenous, the Beauty and the Beast. Right. So they inherited their role, right? The members of Nkama through the Avarogoli were regarded more like traditional medicine men. Their major role in the community could be extrapolated as that of protecting their respective clans against evil spirits and other supernatural powers emanating from their perceived adversaries. Nkama inherited their roles from ancestors, and no ordinary persons could become a member of Nkama by choice. Okay? So you had to inherit this thing, man. It says, Nkama were frequently consulted by Iratungo whenever they wanted to establish the truth of a certain matter. So they had to go to that. See, Iratungo had to go to the Nkama. So you see, even though the Iratungo or the judges, there's a even greater level of judges, which is the Nkama. Those are the elders, man. You know what I'm saying? The spiritual conclave. So Nkama were frequently consulted by Iratungo whenever they wanted to establish the truth of a certain matter. Right? Establish the truth of a certain matter. It says these they could do by administering oaths as a way of establishing the innocence of guilt of any accused person. So what is this oath? What is this oath called, man? What is this oath called? Let's go to page 15 of Informal Local Governance. It says, and this is another proof that this thing been going on before the colonizers. It says, tracing the history of Korea traditional governance system, and indicated that the system has existed for a long time before colonialism to the post-independence era. Findings of this study show that Korea traditional governance system was inherited, see, from one generation to another, and conceived as part and parcel of Korea traditions and culture. All right. Now, what is that oath? The administering of an oath. What is that? This says here, traditional justice administration, especially the use of oath-taking, or Ekehore, is one of the most trusted practices among Korea communities. The practice assures that the complainant or the affected people are compensated and the accused offenders are punished accordingly. So this oath-taking is called Ekehore, right? Administering an oath, or to have someone take an oath in their language, is called Ekehore, right? Ekehore. Domesticating Leviathan, page 19. So remember, they encourage the cattle raiding, right? Nkama might well, in circumstances where their side is seen to be suffering unduly, encourage raiding and offer magical protection to the raiders. Such counseling is backed by sanctions, as they had the power to curse thieves in their lines, or where a thief refuses to confess, put him through the Ekehore, the oath or ordeal. See, the Ekehore is the oath. It says the Ekehore itself takes a variety of forms depending on the area, but it is believed that a man who falsely swears when going through the ordeal will reap a speedy punishment in the death and destruction of himself and his family. Though many thieves and bluster offer to take the Ekehore, it is believed no guilty man will go through it, and few are said to actually dare to take it. Because this thing, if you take this oath, it was perceived that you will become cursed if you guilty. But if you innocent and you take the oath, ain't nothing gonna happen to you. So you'll be good. So this thing is called the Ekehore. You take the oath, man. See, this is what they do in court as well. That's why I said Simeon is the judge, Levi is the lawyer, man. You get into their courtroom and their session, man, you're gonna have to take that oath, man. You're gonna have to swear in. See, this is what Simeon and Levi is, man. Judges and lawyers. And they do it in secret. It's a secret council, man. Genesis 49:6. O my soul, come not down to their secret unto their assembly. Mine honor be not thou united. Right? For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall. Right? Telling you, man. Ekehore, you gotta take that oath, man. Alright? This is the interface between traditional and modern approaches of conflict. Page 6. Still dealing with that Ekehore. I'm going to nail this in the head, man, real good. It says by the 1890s, when colonial rule began to penetrate into the interior East Africa, Africans had already developed their own ways of managing and resolving conflict. You see this, man? This is not this thing saying it again. They already had this way of governing themselves, man. So you see the whole world bit off the Abakuria and the Maasai and all the other tribes of Simeon and Levi, man. They biting off of them, man. Right? It says among the Kuria conflicts were resolved by the council of elders commonly called Nkama. Members who constituted Nkama inherited their positions. Again, inherited it. It says each clan had its own Nkama, which worked independently but could sometimes collaborate with Nkama of other clans in resolving inter-clan conflicts. In resolving conflicts, Nkama applied different techniques which included the use of traditional oath, Ekehore, to establish the truth about a particular crime and punish the convicted. Right? So they make them take the oath to see whether they're telling the truth or not. It says as well as demanding them to pay compensation, establishing blood covenants, and offering sacrifices to their ancestral shrines. Right? So again, man, this oath, administering this oath, is called the Ekehore. You know what I'm saying? Okay. This is our informal local governance. This is page 13. Finding from this study has also found that Nkama plays the role of traditional judicial administration, whereby matters concerning thieves, cattle rustlers, and killers are reported to them for hearing. You know, you see this? For hearing and dispensing justice. Right? What do judges do? They hear the matters between two parties, two individuals. They hear the affliction, man. Right? Like this judge here. The Honorable Mr. Justice A.M. Akiwumi, man. See, he's a judge, man. Report of the Judicial Commission appointed to inquire into tribal clashes in Kenya. Okay? So he know what's going on. He know what's going down in Kenya. Right? He hears the affliction, man. Simeon and Levi. What does Simeon mean again? Let's get it again, man. Simeon. Shamaiwan. Shamaiwan. Hearing, man. You know when they say this is a court hearing, a hearing session, man, right? Shamai goes back to the word shamai, to hear intelligently, right? Attentively, man. Don't get no plainer than that. You know what I'm saying? So what they do, they hear and dispense justice. This is what, during the hearing of the matter before Nkama, those who do not plead guilty are subjected to take an oath properly known as Ekehore, or Ekehore in Kuria language. Right? It says research has revealed that the use of oath administered by Nkama have been very instrumental in controlling cattle rustling, which was rampant in Taramay district in the early 1980s and 1990s, up to the contemporary time. It says by using spiritual powers and trust vested in them, Nkama, by communities, Nkama performed secret investigations to identify people owning firearms illegally and which have been associated with frequent robberies. After identification, people accused of crimes or illegal possessions of firearms were summoned before Nkama, and they were provided with opportunities to prove innocence or plead guilty of their illegal possession of firearms and involvement in robbery. You see this? So they had to prove their innocence by taking the oath. But if they were guilty, they end up handing in their guns. Right? It says, thus, in order to be free from the curse and free from taking oath from spiritual leaders, the Nkama, most of the people possessing firearms illegally did what? Surrendered them to police stations and to the spiritual leaders, especially during the time when the government announced amnesty. So that goes back to when Kubia was sent and he dealt with all of the people who had illegal guns, man. All right. Let me see if I can pull that up again. So yeah, remember Kubia? He had a method of rounding up the guns. It says here he used a variety of methods. He might call together an assembly, a Ratungo, in a given village, and as a man of few words, announced simply that he had come to collect my guns. Just cooperate and give me the guns. He would then read out a list of the names of those who had guns. It says those who had handed them in freely were forgiven, but rather more brutal means had first to be applied to persuade the thieves of his determination. One example quoted by many was that a man who denied such possession was ordered to strip and have sex with his wife, not only in front of the crowd, but more significantly in front of his father and mother-in-law. You see this, man? So this right here, this way of trying to get them to turn in their guns is a part of their oath taking, the Ekehore. Right? Again, it says, Nkama were frequently consulted by a Ratungo whenever they wanted to establish the truth of a certain matter. These they could do by administering oaths as a way of establishing the innocence or guilt of any accused persons. This involves stripping naked. You see this? Just like Kubia did to him. So stripping naked was part of the oath. So you see, Kubia was from the same people. If he gonna have them to do the same thing, he must learn that from his own elders growing up as a young man among the Abakuria. Right? Later on, grew up, became a part of the actual government of the country. So it says what? The administering oath involved what? Stripping naked in front of one's kinsmen, and this is the difference, and women, and the entire clan passing through some shrine to where members of the Avaragoli were seated and taking a concoction whose contents they could not reveal to the researcher. You see this? This is what the Ekehore is, man. The Ekehore is the administration of an oath. Alright? You got to take the oath. And the oath is what? It says again, these they could do by administering oaths as a way of establishing the innocence or guilt of any accused persons. This involves stripping naked in front of one's kinsmen and women and the entire clan, passing through some shrine to where members of the Avaragoli were seated and taking a concoction whose contents they could not reveal to the researcher. So the Ekehore is taking a concoction, man. What's that going into? Let's get it, man. Numbers chapter 5, I'm going to start at verse 11. Alright. It says, the trial of jealousy. And Adonai spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, if any man's wife go aside and commit a trespass against him. See, this is scriptures for, to do this to your wife. But guess what? They got this. They got the oath taken, the Ekehore from the scriptures, showing you that they're Israelites. I'm about to prove it. It says this. It says, 13, and a man lie with her carnally, and it be hid from the eyes of her husband, and be kept closed, and she be defiled, and there be no witness against her, neither she be taken with the manner. Verse 14, and the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be defiled, or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled, then shall the man bring his wife unto the priest. So this whole oath right here, trial of jealousy, right? See, the trial, going back to, court hearings and sessions, man. Come on, man. So it say what? Verse 14, and the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be defiled, or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled, then shall the man bring his wife unto the priest, right? And he shall bring her offering for her, the 10th part of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil upon it, nor put frankincense thereon, for it is an offering of jealousy, an offering of memorial, bringing iniquity to remembrance. Check this out, man. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before Adonai, and the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, right? And of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle, the priest shall take and put it in the water, right? So this is the oath taken of earthen vessel, putting holy water in it with the dust on the floor, mixing it together, right? Oh, they ain't done yet. So this is the concoction, man. right? The Ekehore. All right. So again, Numbers 5 and 17, it says, and the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle the priest shall take and put it into the water. Taking an earthen vessel, right? Putting holy water in it, and taking the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle and putting it in the holy water, right? Mixing it together inside that vessel. I'm just trying to give you a picture of what is taking place here. But let me go back to indigenous. Page 7 and 8. These they could do by administering oaths as a way of establishing the innocence or guilt of any accused persons. This involves stripping naked in front of one's kinsmen and women and the entire clan, passing through some shrine to where members of the Aborigoli were seated, and taking a concoction whose contents they could not reveal to the researcher. Normally, if a person was innocent, he would agree to take the said oath. But if the person was guilty of the offense he was charged with, he would refuse. Right, because he know if he drink that concoction, that curse gonna come upon him if he guilty. Because the rite was perceived as deadly, and anyone who took it while they are guilty of the alleged crime would die as a result of curse invoked upon them by the members of Nkama. Right? Those were the spiritual leaders, man. Now remember that concoction, man. I'm getting to I'm going somewhere. Right? It's page 11 of the indigenous conflict management mechanism. Now here, check this out. From the findings, it emerged that Nkama were a recipe of conflict. To begin with, the act of administering oaths was a cause of conflict. First, oaths were administered by using a vessel. See? Using a vessel. Which was a human skull. You hear this, man? Are you hearing this affliction? The vessel in this particular case of administering an oath was a human skull. But what is it in the scripture? It just says in the scripture, an earthen vessel. Numbers 5 and 17, and the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle the priest shall take and put it into the water. Alright, check this out. And the priest shall set the woman before Adonai, and uncover the woman's head, and put the offering of memorial in her hands, which is the jealousy offering, and the priest shall have in his hand the bitter water that causeth the curse. See this? The bitter water that causeth the curse, man. So hold on, would you say this is witchcraft, man? Some of y'all really get all so spooky and think doing stuff like this would be considered witchcraft. But nah, not with the Nkama of the Abakuria. Now it may be crazy because it's a skull, but isn't a skull an earthen vessel? I'm continue, man. Verse 19, and the priest shall charge her by an oath. See this, man? And say unto the woman, if no man have lain with thee, and if thou hast not gone aside to uncleanness with another instead of thy husband, be thou free from this bitter water that causeth the curse. But if thou hast gone aside to another instead of thy husband, and if thou be defiled, and some man have lain with thee beside thine husband, then the priest shall charge the woman with an oath of cursing. And the priest shall say unto the woman, Adonai make thee a curse and an oath among thy people. when Adonai doth make thy thigh to rot and thy belly to swell. See this, man? So if she drinking and she was guilty of adultery, her thigh would rot, man. Her belly would swell. A curse would come upon her, man. This is the same thing that the Abakuria are doing when they administer their oath with a skull, man. Same thing, man. Verse 22, and it says, and this water that causes the curse shall go into thy bowels. So she would have to drink it, to make thy belly to swell and thy thigh to rot. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. Amen, Amen. Alright. Verse 23, and the priest shall write these curses in a book, and he shall blot them out with the bitter water. Verse 24, and he shall cause the woman to drink the bitter water that causeth the curse, and the water that causeth the curse shall enter into her and become bitter. Right? So come on, man. Then the priest shall take the jealousy offering out of the woman's hand, and shall wave the offering before Adonai and offer it upon the altar. And the priest shall take a handful of the offering, even the memorial thereof, and burn it upon the altar, and afterwards shall cause the woman to drink the water. And when he hath made her to drink the water, then it shall come to pass that if she be defiled and have done trespass against her husband, that the water that causes the curse shall enter into her and become bitter, and her belly shall swell, and her thighs shall rot, and the woman shall be a curse among her people. See this, man? And if the woman be not defiled, but be clean, then she shall be free and shall conceive seed. So she gonna be blessed. This is the law of jealousies. When a wife goeth aside to another instead of her husband and is defiled, or when the spirit of jealousy cometh upon him, and he be jealous over his wife, and shall set the woman before Adonai, and the priest shall execute upon her all this law. Then shall the man be guiltless from iniquity, and this woman shall bear her iniquity. Okay? So this is the oath, man. This is the concoction that they would have to drink. All right? From the vessel, which is a human skull, man. Right? From the findings, it emerged that Nkama were a recipe to conflict. To begin with, the act of administering oaths was a cause of conflict. First, oaths were administered by using a vessel which was a human skull. You see this? Come on, man. This is the Ekehore, man. The Ekehore. Numbers chapter 5. Numbers 5:17, and the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, in which case that we reading is a human skull, man. And of the dust that is in the floor of the tabernacle, the priest shall take and put it into the water. All right? So he's going to take this water, putting dust in it, that is inside the earthen vessel. All right? Just like what we read here. This is the concoction, man. This is the administration of the oath. It says these they could do by administering oaths as a way of establishing the innocence or guilt of any accused persons. All right. This involves stripping naked in front of one's kinsmen and women and the entire clan, passing through some shrine to where members of the Avarogoli were seated and taking a concoction. We know what the concoction is, according to the scripture. All right. Holy water in an earthen vessel mixed with the dust of the floor of the tabernacle. Verse 21, then the priest shall charge the woman with an oath of cursing, and the priest shall say unto the woman, Adonai make thee a curse and an oath among thy people, when Adonai doth make thy thigh to rot and thy belly to swell. Okay. Verse 24, and he shall cause the woman to drink the bitter water that causes the curse. And the water that causes the curse shall enter into her and become bitter. Right? If she guilty. Tell you, man. That's the concoction right there. And the earthen vessel is the human skull. Okay. That's crazy, man. That's something else right there. First oaths were administered by using a vessel which was a human skull. Human skull, man. It says what else? In addition, preparations of oaths was done using human body parts. So they got human body parts as well, man. Come on, man. Let's get that. Go to Judges. Chapter 1. Verses 3 to 7. It says, the acts of Judah and Simeon. Judges 1 verse 3. And Judah said unto Simeon his brother, come up with me into my lot, that we may fight against the Canaanites, and I likewise will go with thee into thy lot. So Simeon went with him. And Judah went up, and Adonai delivered the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand, and they slew of them in Bezek 10,000 men. Now what happened here? And they found Adonai Bezek, and they fought against him, and they slew the Canaanites and the Perizzites. But Adonai Bezek fled, and they pursued after him and caught him and cut off his thumbs and his great toes, body parts, man. Simeon ain't no joke, man. Listen, man, you don't mess with Simeon and Levi, man. You don't do it. Now, they could have been some Nephilim. So they had extra fingers and toes, man. And maybe that's why they cut them off. But regardless, they cutting off body parts, man. It says, but Adonai Bezek fled, and they pursued after him and caught him and cut off his thumbs and his great toes. Verse 7, and Adonai Bezek said 70 kings, having their thumbs and their great toes cut off, gathered their meat under my table. As I have done, so God hath requited me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and there he died. So they cut off a lot of toes and thumbs, man. Okay? Body parts. This is why they get the body parts for their ritual, man. Alright? It says these parts were obtained from members of different clans or communities, right? Different clans or communities. They got these parts from different clans or communities. Right? However, in the process of getting the body parts, warriors engaged in cattle theft and consequently conflict between the warriors of the different clans. I'm gonna give you an example of that real quick. Weird day. Domesticating Leviathan. Page 14, man. It says the following account from Matthias Mwita Akira recounts the death of the famed Nayabasi warlord Musubi. Whoops. It says in 86, Musubi was killed in Kibanchebanchi, a hill village some 15,000 to the northwest of Mugumu town, the headquarters of Serengeti district. He was killed by Mogeya of the Kira. His Simo, Chacha Nsabi, was also killed later on that morning. The Nayabasi came to raid the village, but Kira were waiting as they were meeting to prepare an attack on Nayabasi the next day. I was then in Form 1 at Isibania on the Kenyan border and heard the news the next morning. The Nkama, the conclave of ritual elders, are said to have mutilated the body, taking the tongue and penis. You hear this, man? So they took, like I say, man, they take the body parts of rival clans. It says these parts were obtained from members of different clans or communities. However, in the process of getting the body parts, warriors engaged in cattle theft and consequently conflict between the warriors of the different clans. So when that conflict arose, they was like, all right, I'm gonna just cut you up, take your body parts, and use it for a ritual. What happened right here, man? Took the body and took the tongue and penis, man. Right? Again, man, cursed be thy anger. Genesis 49:7. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. Right? Very cruel, man, and their way of dealing with each other, man. Within the Abakuria clans and with the other tribes, the Maasai and all of them. Cruel, man. Cutting off body parts. Right? Something else right here, man. It says Musubi and Mogeya, previously they had raided together when they were fighting the Nguruemi, but Mogeya eventually killed Musubi to great jubilation among the Kira. The mutilation of the body by the Nkama is said to provide them with the materials for counter magic against their opponents. You see this, man? This is how they get the body parts for preparation of their oaths. And this is how they administer their oaths, called the Ekehore, man. You see what I'm saying? This is something else right here, man. Getting the body parts from rivalry clans, man. Clans that they in competition with. Okay? So they administered oaths by using a vessel which was a human skull. Right? Addition, preparation of oaths was done using human body parts. These parts were obtained from members of different clans. Alright, so let me show you something real quick. Let me show you this video, man. See. This is a testimony. It's called, this is George Chacha's YouTube channel, Migori Community. And on his channel, he got a video of his mother giving a testimony on the Ekehore. Alright, I'm gonna go right to it, man. Most High willing, you'll hear this.
Slept. Basically to graduate as a man. They were powerful. They had medicine. These people had very powerful charms. There was a kind of conflict resolution within my community, and it was called Ekehore. They were powerful. They had medicine. These people had very powerful charms. There was a kind of conflict resolution within my community, and it was called Ekehore. This is where somebody drank water from the skull of a human being. They were...
See? Ekehore is when they drink water from the skull of a human being, man. Ain't that what we were just reading, man? Right? Ain't that the scriptures, man? My bad, I'm just going back and forth. Drinking water from the human skull. So it wasn't blood. Okay, it wasn't blood. Like I thought. I just assumed it was because they was getting the human body parts. But they was drinking water from a human skull, man. Right? The Ekehore is the oath where administered by using a vessel which was a human skull. Alright, let's go back.
This is where somebody drank water from the skull of a human being. They were using the skull as an oath taking. Are you telling the truth? Yes. Okay, drink water from the skull. And if it is the truth, nothing will happen to you. But if it is lies, if you are lying, then you would perish. Your family would perish. You'd bring a curse upon your family. And even the person who is accusing you was also made to drink water from the skull. In the event he is lying, something terrible will happen to him. Something terrible will happen to his family. Once believed that having many wives was beneficial in the sense that during ceremonies.
So you see, man, the Ekehore is drinking the water from a human skull. The same thing we read about in the book of Numbers, chapter 5. And the reports that we've been reading, right, from these different articles, right, these different articles, you know, PDFs that we reading from. And all of the sources, all of them say the same thing about the Abakuria. Same thing, man. The Ekehore.
These wives would work as a team. They would serve the guest with a lot of ease. Even
I think that's going into something else. Well, listen to it again, man. No interruptions.
They were powerful. They had medicine. These people had very powerful charms. There was a kind of conflict resolution within my community, and it was called Ekehore. This is where somebody drank water from the skull of a human being. They were using the skull as an oath taking. Are you telling the truth? Yes. Okay, drink water from the skull. And if it is the truth, nothing will happen to you. But if it is lies, if you are lying, then you would perish. Your family would perish. You'd bring a curse upon your family. And even the person who is accusing you was also made to drink water from the skull. In the event he is lying, something terrible will happen to him. Something terrible will happen to his family. Once believed that having many wives.
There you go, man. If you don't believe this is Simeon and Levi after all of this information I'm bringing out, then, man, I don't know, man. The scriptures, the reports and the articles, man. Line upon line. Here little, there little. Hey, these are people of the Most High, man. This is Simeon and Levi. Okay? I don't know what else to bring out. But I ain't done yet. To be continued.